Welcome to another video from Demystifying Proposals. Our mission is to break down the proposal process and make proposals make sense. In this video, we talk about the pink and red team management process, how to make your proposal reviews effective. Proposals are an important part of the business development lifecycle. You need to understand how your proposals fit into the whole process. Proposals are built over time and based on color team reviews. The proposal manager will supply an outline that's compliant to the RFP requirements. You must use this as your guide, regardless of whether you are writing content or reviewing the proposal. You aren't expected to sit down and write amazing prose. If you can do that, great. If you can't, the proposal manager will work with you to make sure that the prose is both compliant and compelling. Proposals are iterative. That means that they go through lots of phases and each draft builds on the last one. Each phase is reviewed to see how compliant, responsive, and compelling the draft is. And note that the level of detail expected at each phase is different. This is what we mean by building a proposal. You can think of business development as a funnel. It starts with your company leadership identifying your corporate strategy, and then your business development leaders and account leads will search for opportunities that fit into that corporate strategy. They'll input them into the customer relationship management system, or CRM, and identify them as leads. From there, they'll continue to qualify those opportunities. That is, trying to figure out how best to meet the requirements of them and how best to sell your company to the people who are in the government who are interested in that work. That then becomes a qualified lead. In the capture and pre-proposal development stage, capture managers will further refine your strategy as to how you might bid on this opportunity and what kind of things you can bring that are unique to your company. During the proposal development process, you have a live RFP in front of you. You know what your instructions are in order to produce a proposal. And this is when you go through those color team reviews that we're going to be talking about before you get to proposal submission. A typical proposal schedule lasts about 30 days. Now, obviously, there are times when you're given fewer days and times when you're given more days. But this is a general outline of how a proposal schedule might be organized. Usually, day 1 is the day that the RFP drops, and day 30 is the day that it's due. That is when submission needs to happen. In between there, as you can see from this slide, there are a lot of activities that need to take place, including those color team reviews. So today we're going to be talking about pink team and red team, which happen usually in the first and second weeks of the proposal timeline. The proposal management role entails many activities. First and foremost is what we're talking about today, which is scheduling and organizing color team reviews. They also drive the proposal schedule, trying to get authors to develop content in a timely fashion. They work with graphics and editing to make sure that graphics are developed and that the proposal is edited. Poorly written proposals can be seen as an indicator of what the quality of the contractor's work will be on the contract you're trying to win. So you want your proposal to look good and to read well. Then they also work with desktop publishing and formatting, whether they do it themselves or whether they work with desktop publishers. Again, badly formatted proposals make it harder for the government to find the right information, which may impact your score. And then proposal managers also have a key role in ensuring compliance on a proposal. These are the typical proposal reviews based on Shipley Associates that most government contractors use during their proposal development process. Every company defines the percentages and requirements a little differently, but this is a general overview of what each color review entails. At Pink Team, you generally want to see 100% outline, not 100% of full content necessarily, but you want your authors to write to every requirement so that the reviewers can see where they're going and can offer substantive reviews. At Red Team, you're getting closer to a complete proposal. You want to show all of the elements you intend to have in the final version, though they may not be finished yet. Green Team 1 and Green Team 2 are your pricing reviews. The pricing review Green Team 1 generally happens around the time of Red Team because at that point you have enough of a solution to be able to effectively get to a price to win against your competition. Green Team 2 happens toward the end of the proposal process when you're finalizing your cost strategy and making sure that your PTW is being met. The last couple of reviews that the proposal manager generally manages are the gold team and the white glove. We limit the number of reviewers in these reviews because we're getting down to the end of the proposal process and we need to limit the number of cooks in the kitchen. Here are a few definitions we use throughout these training videos, just so you know what we consider these terms to mean. The proposal team, when we talk about that, is the proposal manager, the proposal coordinator, if you have one, the capture manager, and the authors who are writing content for the proposal. The business lead is generally whoever will be leading the work if you win it. So that may be a portfolio lead, that might be a vice president, or that might be a program manager. Here we're going to talk about what you need to do to prepare for your pink team or red team review. On this slide, we talk about the pink and red team content expectations. So for pink team, it's generally the first draft and hopefully is about an 80% complete content. Note that different companies set this level differently. Use whatever your company uses. But as I said before, what we're trying to do is show 100% of the outline so that you can lock in your technical solution, show your top level outline, show your win themes, key personnel, and past performance. The review team should thoroughly critique this draft with sufficient guidance for the writers to complete the final draft, usually reviewed at Red Team. The documents reviewed will be all technical volumes and appendices. So that may include a technical approach, a management approach, and a past performance section. The timing of a pink team is usually within a week of the receipt of the final request for proposal or RFP, or the bid decision to go after that RFP. You should not have any sections blank at a pink team, even if a section contains only a detailed description of what will go there and what has been done to obtain the information. The red team means that you're at the next to final or final draft. It's about a 90% complete document. The purpose of the red team is to conduct a full review of all sections of the technical volume, preferably using the same evaluation criteria as the government. Whatever the government is going to be using based on Section M, the evaluators should also use to review your proposal. Generally speaking, the red team is held about a week after pink team, or about 2 weeks prior to the submission deadline. We try to use the same reviewers for pink team and red team. This is so they get familiar with the proposal strategy, but also so they get a chance to see and measure the progress on the proposal sections, particularly how their comments at pink team may have been integrated into the red team draft. Reviewers should understand the solution well enough to provide an effective review. Reviewers should also be managers who can evaluate the efficacy of the management section or volume. You need to assign at least 3 reviewers for each section. So if you're breaking up your technical approach and your management approach and your past performance volumes into different sections for review because they're long enough that you can't have anybody reviewing all of them. They just wouldn't have time. You need to make sure you have at least 3 reviewers for each of the sections that you're putting out for review. Roles in the organization for reviewers. Generally speaking, your core reviewers are your capture team, SMEs who are not authors, an adjacent business lead who can do that efficacy of the management section, the proposal operations director or manager, and if your company has one, a chief growth officer. Alternate or additional reviewers might include key subcontractors, but make sure that you have a teaming agreement in place with them to protect your intellectual property. Other business leads might also be included as alternate reviewers if they have enough familiarity with the solution and or the management approach to be effective. In terms of time for the review, reviewers should have at least 8 hours to review the content, longer if they have more content to review. Some general guidance on how to conduct pink team and red team reviews is to be sure to send out invitations well in advance of when you need the reviewers, preferably shortly after the kicked off meeting. Be sure to invite enough reviewers so that no one reviewer has to review more than 10 to 15 pages. That harkens back to the previous slide where we talked about having enough reviewers so that you have 3 reviewers for each section. Be sure to check with the reviewers that they have time to do the review. Don't assume that their acceptance of an invitation is enough. Make sure to check with them specifically that they are going to do the review. All too often, folks accept the invitation to do the review without thinking about the timeline that will be involved in doing the review. If you need reviewers, you need to make sure that they are going to do the review. Be sure to include the timeline for the review in the invitation. That is, the document will come out at this time. You'll have this much time to review, and contents are due by this time. The review slide is due by this time. Some proposal managers schedule all the reviews at once, right after the kickoff, using the proposal schedule as their guide. Others wait until each review has been conducted to schedule the next one. Either practice is fine. You do what you find more comfortable. Generally speaking, you want to organize the pink team or the red team by inviting reviewers to a proposal in brief. Sometimes you don't have an in brief meeting. In that case, still prepare and send the in brief with the invitations for the reviewers. So you need to prepare the pink or red team deck in brief with inputs from the capture manager for the opportunity overview and the win strategy, and the solution architect for the solution. Generally, there are 3 sections to the in brief. Proposal team members and assignments to give the reviewers context for who will be on the debrief, capture strategy, solution information to give the reviewers insight into win themes and discriminators, and then an RFP decomposition done by the proposal manager to explain how the proposal outline has been organized relative to sections L, M, and C, especially if there's anything weird about the instructions or the evaluation criteria. Assignments should also be in the deck, as well as in the email invitation. Be sure to provide instructions on how the review will be conducted, whether it will be virtual or in person, how long the reviewers have to review, that is, the deadline for output submissions, and what outputs are you expecting. Comments in the document and a SWOT debrief slide is generally what we expect for most color team reviews. The next step in the process is generally to block time for the review on reviewers' calendar. It's a best practice to put an invitation on the reviewers' calendars as a reminder of the time they have for the review and as a reminder to do the review. Usually this invitation is set to free, so it doesn't block the reviewers' calendars from other meetings they may have scheduled. But this is particularly important if you schedule the review several days or weeks in advance. The last invitation you need to send out for your pink and red teams is for the debrief. You want to be sure to have a debrief slide for each section of the proposal for reviewers to use. That is technical approach, management approach, past performance, resumes, etc. Your debrief slides generally ask for a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What is good about the content you reviewed, what needs improvement, and suggestions for how to improve the content. And then we ask for an overall rating: red, yellow, green, blue. Be sure to invite the authors to the debrief as well, so they hear the feedback firsthand. Coach them to ask questions, but not to challenge the reviewers. So now that you've sent out your invitations, it's time for you to actually execute on your pink team or red team. So obviously, a key step in the proposal process is working with the authors to prepare the documents for pink team and red team. So you need to work with your proposal team to ensure the documents are going to be ready for the review. You have daily stand-ups and you check the status of each section at this point. And you reiterate the deadlines for the drafts. You go over the proposal schedule so that everybody is aware of what their deadlines are. Then you also need to review the drafts to ensure the content is pink team ready. That is, you need to go into SharePoint or whatever content development system you're using and actually look at the drafts that people are writing. If the content isn't pink team ready, then discuss that with the author to determine what can be done to get it to pink team ready. And if it's not ready and the deadline is looming, discuss with the capture manager just laying the pink team or the red team, or for the pink team, not having those sections reviewed. Note that this is not an option at red team. At red team, you need to have all of your content reviewed. If the content is not pink team ready and the author is still struggling to provide the content, that is, they don't have the time to do the work or they don't understand what the content need is, consider escalation to senior leadership as a last resort. Once the drafts have been released for pink team by the authors, the proposal manager does a preliminary edit and format of the documents before posting them for the pink team reviewers. This is so reviewers are not distracted by poor grammar and bad formatting, but can concentrate on the proposal content. The next step in pink team or red team execution is to lead the in brief. Now, sometimes I said you just send the in brief slides. This is if everybody's calendars are so busy and you don't have time to actually conduct an in brief. But if you do, you want to use the in brief slides that you've developed with the capture manager and the solution architect. Be sure to remind reviewers of the timeline for the review. The document will come out at this time. Reviewers have until this time to review. Comments are due at this time, and the SWOT slide is due at this time. It's very important that you continue to talk about the timeline for the review, because you'd be amazed at how often reviewers don't process that information until they're reminded the second or third time. Then you need to monitor the inputs in SharePoint or whatever system you're using for proposal development. That is, you need to make sure the reviewers are actually reviewing. And if they're not reviewing, if you're not seeing content reviews, comments being input, then you may need to help the reviewers, because sometimes they just don't have access to the SharePoint, or sometimes they're just not sure how to put in comments. So make sure that you're offering that help as needed. Also, remind the reviewers about the SWOT slide, because that's a key element of the proposal process. These are the steps to execute the pink or red team debrief. If needed, consolidate reviewers' inline comments into a single master Word document. SharePoint or other proposal content systems should do this automatically, but if you have offline reviewers, consultants, or subs, you may need to combine their comments into the master Word document. Rather than review each comment throughout the documents, use debrief slides. 1 or 2 slides for reviewers to use to provide their SWOT analysis, that is, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Reviewers should provide 1 set of slides for each section reviewed. If they review both technical and management approach, for example, they should provide 1 set of slides for management approach and 1 set of slides for technical approach. The proposal manager should prepare these slides for the reviewers. Then, once they post them or send them to you, rename them with the reviewer's name so that included in the file name so that it's easy to tell whose comments are whose. Then use those debrief slides from the reviewers to lead the debrief discussion. Generally speaking, we put the slides in the order based on seniority of the reviewers. So the Chief Growth Officer debriefs before a business lead, the business lead debriefs before an adjacent business lead, the adjacent business lead debriefs before any other delivery personnel. You want to organize the slides by section so that all the reviews for one section are conducted together, followed by the next section of the proposal. And lead the discussion to try and deconflict suggestions from the entire review team. But do not allow the debrief to devolve too far. Instead, table detailed discussions for another time, then be sure to set up that meeting right away. Remind authors that they can ask clarifying questions of the reviewers, but not to argue with the reviewers' points. A quick note. Sometimes the red team goes badly. Sometimes pink team recovery wasn't thorough enough. Now, as the proposal manager, you should be monitoring for this, but sometimes things happen. Sometimes the reviewers have a different idea about the solution. Hopefully this came up at pink team, but sometimes the first time the solution is fully baked is at red team. In this case, as the schedule allows, it may be necessary to hold a second red team, or, if you will, a magenta team. Use the same process as for red team, monitoring content frequently. Make sure the reviewers are prepped as to what can and cannot be done about the content or the solution. Sometimes reviewers want the world, and you should prepare them to not understand that sometimes just can't happen. And be sure business development leadership, the proposal operations manager or director, the chief growth officer, are apprised of the situation and prepared to help as needed. The next step in the pink team and red team process is recovery. These are the steps for pink and red team recovery. You want to consolidate all the debrief slides for each section and post them to the SharePoint for the proposal so that all the proposal team members have access to those slides that you just talked about in the debrief. You want to prepare the proposal documents for the next review. Authors should not be making updates in the pink team documents for the red team, for example. Files should be renamed or moved to a different directory so that the pink team documents remain available as they were. You want to conduct a meeting with all the authors on the review. You want to talk about the process for adjudicating comments. You want them to adjudicate the comments. You want to adjudicate the comments with them. You want them to gray out the comments once they have completed their integration of the comment. You want them to comment on the comment to tell you what they did or did not do. You want them to delete the comments. There's a whole bunch of different opportunities for how that process of adjudicating comments might work. So you need to tell your authors what your expectations are. You also need to talk about the schedule for the next review. How much time do they have to do recovery before they have another review coming? Often reviews are very quick after each other. and they may only have a couple or 3 days to do their recovery. This meeting can coincide with the next stand-up, depending on the extent of the comments or the changes required. So usually from pink team to red team, you might need to have a separate meeting because there will be lots and lots and lots and lots of comments to review. But sometimes from red team to gold team, there aren't as many comments, we hope, and you can get away with doing this meeting at the stand-up because you don't have to go over a ton of comments. It may also be necessary to have one-on-one meetings with each author or with particular authors. Be sure to include the capture manager and the solution architect as appropriate in those meetings. And be sure the author doesn't feel attacked. We're all just trying to get to a winning proposal. Finally, you need to work with the proposal team to ensure the documents are going to be ready for the next review, just as you did as part of the execution of the pink team or the red team to begin with. Check the status at daily stand-ups, reiterate the deadlines for drafts, review the drafts to make sure the content is red or gold team ready. And once the drafts have been released for red team, do a preliminary edit or format on the documents before posting for the red team reviewers. This is so reviewers are not distracted by poor grammar or bad formatting, as we said before at pink team. Red team, you're going to follow the same steps as you did for pink team, which is why we combined these slides. You're going to send out the invitations for review. You're going to prepare the in-brief. You're going to conduct the in-brief. You're going to monitor the review. You're going to conduct the debrief, etc. So after pink team and red team, there are two other color team reviews. There's a training that will be provided on how to conduct gold team and white glove, similar to what this pink team and red team review looked like. The gold team and the white glove reviews are generally held among a smaller group of reviewers, and these reviews should be limited to only must-have changes, not nice to have. We hope you enjoyed this video from Demystifying Proposals. Please comment and share.